It was from this bed that the capital we know today rose, and the stone banks tamed the river to commercial uses. The river meant trade, and Dame Street, the centre of commerce, still runs east with the river, with street names recalling the old quaysides: Crane Lane, Fishamble Street, the fish shambles, where fish was sold in the open, as it still is in other places. Century by century, the city grew. Other Irish cities grew up by the rivers. In 18th century Cork, the merchant adopted the Dutch style and housed his family over his warehouse. The sea once came up into Patrick Street. It was a tidal harbour. These pavements were quaysides with doorways open to receive barrels and bales, as they still are. When the small traders left the open markets, they converted the ground floors of private houses into shops. And later on, in the capital city, they were to take in front gardens and build shops on them. Water power was once greatly used in the capital city to run mills and other machinery. Steam replaced it, and long, uniform rows of cottages were built to house the labourers, the artisans, who are going to be grouped significantly in industrial reform as the workers. Managers and senior clerks began to move out of the industrialized city. There was no place for them in the great squares, so they began to nibble into the surrounding country. They gave their houses names derived from history or romantic literature. They formed the suburbs, and sham castellations were not thought out of place in it. But the face of the 18th century city was changing, and out to the Grand Canal the great houses were slowly given over to the law and medicine. The great streets and squares were to reflect the changing face of Dublin. Under these roofs that once covered as single families and their servants, there are flats and offices opening into bustling streets. The old features remain, but taxation and rising wages forced those who live behind the brick fronts to leave. Much of this was brought about by the great lockout of 1913 that was caused by employers demanding that their workers should sign a declaration that they were not members of the new trade union organization. James Larkin's meetings were proclaimed and broken up with a brutality that excited the sympathy of English labor organizations, and they sent food ships to the starving workers. It was the beginning of a great social change, and beside the symbol of an age that has passed away in Ireland, rises, built out of the dues of the successors of the 1913 workers, the new Liberty Hall. Behind the houses of the square dwellers were the houses of the people who worked for them, grooms and coachmen, the horses for riding about the city, the carriage, the smart delivery van, the great draft horses and the horse omnibus. The 20th century brought in the petrol that has gradually banished them.